This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Well, welcome to Killer Innovations. We are here in the mobile studio in Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. As we walk around the show, we see a lot of variety of technologies and innovations. Obviously, the big thing here is televisions. If you want to go see I think it was Samsung announced a 231-inch, TV. I don't have 230 inches on my wall anywhere in my house to mount it. Autonomous vehicles. We saw helicopter taxis, right? But one area here at the show, which does get a lot of interest, and in fact, when I was CTO at HP, I had the accessibility technology team reporting to me, right? So we developed the very first of the Braille keyboards and very first of technologies to help the visually impaired to get access to it. So it's a personal passion interest for me. And we have one company that is showing here, made some announcements here at CES this year, that I think is doing some interesting work around accessibility and working with people with medical disabilities to have, recover as best as they can, but also to augment and give them technologies that allow them to have the full experience. So, Scott Kim, welcome to Killer Innovations.
Thanks for having me.
So what I'd like to do is, first off, have you kind of introduce yourself and introduce your company, and then we'll get into the discussions of what it's all about.
Sure. I am the CEO of NEOFECT USA, which is the US operations of its mother company, NEOFECT, based in South Korea. Mm-hmm. So we make the smart rehabilitation solutions, including wearable devices and software that's run by AI, and mainly focusing on people with neurological conditions. So mainly stroke survivors, that's been our major target market for the past 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so and we also try to come up with other educational materials that people can actually read and then get to know more about stroke. And that's what we've been doing the past couple of years too.
So it's all about the use of technologies with an AI element on the rehab side. So now historically, as we were talking before we started the show, you were sharing that a lot of the early work was really about upper body, mm-hmm. So if you're a stroke victim, mm-hmm. and you either lose use of your left or right hand, depending on where your stroke mm-hmm. occurred at, exactly. Then it's about... Now, is the client for this the end patient, or do you get prescribed by the doctors? The doctors then tell the patient, buy this, and then we're going to use this as part of your... Is it used in people's homes or used in a rehab facility?
Yeah, it's actually all of the above.
Oh, okay.
And,
I got that one right.
Yeah, so our flagship device, for example, Smart Glove, it actually is used by more than 100 of American hospitals and clinics, and including Stanford, NYU, and New York Presbyterian, and Charlie Ryan Ability Lab, all these guys, and once we started getting into the hospitals, then we actually launched in 2017 the mass market version. So we do have the direct consumers using our devices, especially the Smart Glove, on a daily basis for their rehabilitation. And and the software is run by artificial intelligence, and then so they can just use it easily and independently. And it is it requires a prescription. Right. So once they get it, go through the paperwork, and then we deliver the product to their home.
Okay. So, and what in this case, take the glove as an example. Is it then being used by the physical therapist to test to see I had this range of motion. Now I've got bigger range of motion. So I'm showing progress on the physical therapy results. Because I know in the case of physical therapy and other conditions, for you to continue to get physical therapy, you got to show progress. You can't stagnate. So was that really the role of the glove then to measure that you're making those kinds of progress?
Yeah, like one more all of the above moment. Yes, absolutely. It's it like just the beauty of software is always like you can get the data and then you can actually keep track of the progress instead of like your husband looks better. And then always like family members like, okay, like how much better? And then what do you mean looks better? Is that the hand or shoulder? Is that finger? And by how much? So what that does is like it actually, like for example, like again, like back to smart glove, NEOFECT smart glove example, it actually, measures like, range of motion over time. So we do have the 6 target motion, starting with the fingers and then, wrist and like pronation, supination and all that. So in 6 different target motions, like it tells you your range of motion was, like 5% less a week ago. But, like you've been working on, X hours and now you got, you gained 5%. So it's pretty amazing to see how people, like make their way up. So because like, obviously it's not like, just because of the neuroplasticity, like you just need to work on your repetitive games. So you have to just like, like work on things like in a very, very repetitive manner. So sometimes it go lower, like other times it go up, go up. But eventually, if you see the chart of, like the patients who actually, pretty engaged, with the process, you can see like the graph is like going, like top right. So, which is great sign. So yeah, I mean, it was a long answer, but like, back to your question that it does, track the progress and then it tells you, like just, what you need to work on and what you've been working on.
Oh, great. And I mean, I'm interested in, because when you and your friends came up with this idea and actually turned it into a product, to go through the whole medical side of it, to get it so that people can prescribe it and insurance companies would pay for it. I mean, that's a long path to go from idea to actually get something that starts helping people.
Yeah, it really was a long path, and then like we started with 8 founders, and then we were like still, 3 of us like still with the company, and 3 of us like we were just joking around a couple of days ago. It's like had we known everything, because like we were like talking about something pretty complicated. It's like we wouldn't even have started. So I think
we hear that a lot. Where people go, I thought this was going to be like a 2-year thing, and it's going to be really fast, and then all of a sudden you got Food and Drug Administration, and you got,
absolutely,
insurance party payment systems, and getting a code put in, so they can code it and all that.
We're still learning, and we're like there's a lot more to learn, and then healthcare is not like. It's I don't know. Like my background is also tech too, but healthcare is not as fast as like tech or finance industry. So it's just there's a lot of stakeholders, and then like approaches like completely different. So I think when we were studying this, like I think 3 of us like all had the like basically like techy minded. But we just learn a lot, and there's a Korean saying that like if you're brave, then you're usually ignorant, and then we were very brave and ignorant like back then. So like I couldn't agree like any more with you.
Yeah, it is from the standpoint of certain industries are harder. For instance, we just recently had. Dean Kamen on the show. Dean's the inventor of the Segway, and he's the inventor of the infusion pump, so the portable insulin pumps. He's the inventor of the insulin pumps. He's the inventor of peritoneal dialysis. He just created a hemodialysis machine, so you can do kidney dialysis in the home, right? And I've known Dean for decades, and you hear the stories of weaving the food and drug healthcare, and he's primarily in the healthcare space. And for me being an outsider, you kind of look at that and go, not interested. not something. And albeit at HP, we did a lot of work like Braille keyboards, right?
Yeah.
They're very expensive to make. But you need a company like HP that would build it and be willing to lose money on it because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
Versus if all your business is around healthcare and you got to make a profit on that, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Given your cost before you get the first dollar of revenue. We're going to continue that conversation because I'm interested in getting more of the story about how you got started to where you are today. We'll do that in the next segment. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to the Killer Innovation Show on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation here with Scott. So give us a little bit of background on how the idea came about, because choosing to go into healthcare is hard, right? But you've had now it's been 10 years, right? From the start to get to this point. What was the activities across those 10 years from where you started the idea to where you are today?
Wow. So the first, again, like our CTO, and he was at USC, and then, he's actually he's an idea man. Like if you spend 5 minutes, and he will give you probably 25 ideas, and 99% like pretty bad ideas. And he's super engineer. One thing that makes him different is he can come up with the idea, but he already knows how to make it. That's a big difference from me. I study business, in undergrad and, MBA. So, I don't know how to make things. So he was chipping a lot of ideas, and 99% was either too expensive or just probably 7 people care in the whole United States.
Right.
So, but then again, this idea was chipped in, and then both my friend Ho Young, who's our group CEO, and I were pretty hooked. The business itself sounded pretty lucrative too, but Ho Young, we had personal stories too. So Ho Young lost his father from stroke, and then he didn't grow up in super rich families, so they didn't know a lot of means to get on to rehab journey. Mm-hmm. So they just had to let him go, and then he was pretty emotional. And I was also born with spina bifida, which is type of disability. So you just told me that you have grandchildren. Mm-hmm. But when the babies are born, this is one of the things that doctor tells you that your kid has it or does not have it, and if it has it, then it gets a little complicated. So thankfully, I was a mild case, but I did go through major surgery, and then I had fair share of rehab growing up in South Korea in the early '80s. So that was not fun, but to my surprise, just 2010 in America, and then 1980. 4 or 5 in South Korea, which was actually a different country than now. And there was not much difference. And then, so when you visit the, therapy setting. So, arguably, this is the best country. And then the wealthiest country. And then I was why is this? And then I thought, back then, 2010, I'm pretty sure you remember, apps were just being created a lot. And people kind of started to understand, what are the apps? But then again, they shared the idea, those are the apps. So technology was just kicking in really fast. So we thought there's a good chance that we can do something about technology with this rehab setting, especially for the stroke survivors.
Right.
And then we set up the company in South Korea, very we started very small, and then we were just joking earlier, but we started with the 3 F's round, for funding. It's ourselves, of course, and then family, friends, and fools. And then once we got enough, then we got to seed round, and then and then venture capitals, and then the first product like to be launched, like it took like 4 years, and then first product in the US that was like in 2015, and then also product launch in between, and then in 2018 we went on an IPO in South Korea.
Great. And so I think people underestimate how long it really takes. By the time you got like, ooh, we like this idea, let's start working on it, until you can get it in. And even in healthcare, it's even harder because in some cases, you're not in control of when you can launch. It's not like, I got to write this app, and whenever I can get it into the Apple Store and get people downloading, I'm done. In the case of healthcare, the regulatory, the policy, the governments, they all sticking their fingers into the whole process, which adds a lot of complexity.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's something that we really like underestimated, and I think we were like very, very extremely lucky because like both Hoyoung and I were in business school, and which is basically like risk-free setting. So like, if any of my friends or like just cousins, like if they go to business school, it's like perfect setting. You try something for those 2 years. So when we were founding the company, we still had like 1 year left. So we were just fully focused on making the technology, like, come up with a like MVP, minimum viable product. So that was our main focus, and we probably cared nothing about, actual healthcare stakeholders and everything. So we were just like so focused on let's make this, and then if it's going to work or not. And then we were just like meeting a lot of like therapists too. Yep. And then got some good feedback, but a lot of like, criticism that's saying, like, are you trying to replace me, or are you trying to, like, but people like you, like usually you guys don't make it. And I was like, we are like, thank you.
Right. So real quick, what's next? What are you working on that's kind of the new thing?
Yeah. So after launching, like various products, like mainly for stroke survivors rehabilitation, we thought it makes sense to, make the human touch more, centered around their rehab journey. So we're launching, NEOFECT Connect in App Store, so that like people can actually, like meet through the app, our clinicians. And that really helps like, product coaching. And I mean, obviously we do have the AI, but we tried a lot like with AI just to let it touch on, motivation factor, which is the most important thing when it comes to rehab. And it just didn't work out too greatly. So like we realized that, like actually having the human relationship and then making sure that, they are on right track, like that's very important. So our next big thing is, getting into the tele-rehab, like telehealth, so that like they can get product coaching, like through the like Skype type of app.
Oh, perfect. So if people want to keep up with what NEOFECT is up to, where's the best place for them to get information about NEOFECT?
Yeah, come to our Facebook and find the NEOFECT, NEOFECT. And right now we're actually running the like Power of 60 Seconds like stroke awareness campaign. So each share we donate $1 like to a stroke research facility because we want to remain connected with the community. So come to our Facebook and please share the post, and you're doing a good thing then.
Perfect. So we'll put a link up and promote it on the social media here for the Killer Innovation Show, and we'll make the links available in the show notes. So hop on over to killerinnovation.com. The links will be there, and you can hop right over. Hey, Scott, thanks for taking the time. I know it could be a little crazy here at the show, trying to get around and meet everybody. So appreciate you finding the time to come over to the mobile studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. And with that, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We'll have segment 3 coming up here. So we'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Welcome back to this segment. We are here to talk about the Consumer Electronics Show. Every year, we get invited by CTA to come and bring the mobile studio. We, as you know, as listeners of the show, we capture a large number of wide variety of entrants. This year, we're covering everything from trends and changes to new technologies to TVs, to medical devices. So first of all, introduce yourself and give us a little bit of context of CTA, because I'm not sure all the listeners are familiar with CTA.
So thank you so much for having me. My name is Sarah Brown. I'm Director of Event Communications for the Consumer Technology Association, and we are the association that puts on CES. And CES, of course, is the world's largest and most influential tech event. So we're here day 3. It's been a super exciting show so far. Lots of great stuff to see.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Well, first of all, do we have a head count for this year's show yet? Has that been made public?
Well, we're expecting about 170,000. We'll get more firm numbers probably afternoon tomorrow in terms of attendees. From an exhibitor standpoint, about 4,400 from 160 countries from around the world. So
wow. Yeah,
not small.
I do private CEO series of tours on the floor. Tuesday morning before the floor opens. So we take, 50 CEOs and CTOs from leading brands to take them on the floor beforehand to do kind of one-on-ones with like the big brands like Samsung and LG and Sony and et cetera. But boy, when that floor door opens on Tuesday, it's like a stampede. But it's, there's been some changes though in this year's show. There's some people that it seems like some of the your more footprint across the city. I mean, to try to see everybody. I mean, I've got this long list of everybody wanting me to come see them. I'm like, okay, I got to run to the area. I got to run to the Sands. I got to run to the Venetian. I got to run someplace else.
So
it's continues to expand.
You're absolutely right. And actually this year at CES 2020, we're on about 2.9 million net square feet of space, which really, as you mentioned, we kind of take over the city of Las Vegas. And that's really because so many industries outside of the traditional tech space are participating in CES. So, you mentioned all the big players. Of course, we have startup companies, 1,200 startup companies as part of Eureka Park, and that encompasses 50 different countries from around the world. But what we're seeing is, this year, for example, we added travel and tourism. Delta Airlines was a keynote, and that's a new category for us at CES. A good example of categories outside traditional tech that really see CES as a platform to show how their businesses are evolving.
Well, it's interesting because in Delta here has been showing off some pretty interesting display technology, which I thought was kind of interesting when I saw the release on it. I haven't had a chance to actually go see it. In fact, somebody who follows our show sent me the notice to say, hey, if you get a chance, can you go check out Delta and tell us whether or not, how legitimate. And you don't think of Delta as being kind of, car manufacturers are here. We've got the flying car, flying helicopter, Uber taxi thing here. So what are some of the newer industries that you're seeing wanting to be involved at CES?
So I mentioned travel and tourism. A few years ago, we launched Smart Cities, which is really more about some B2B technologies that help make our cities smarter, of course, and really that gets into the infrastructure to help the technology cities communicate with each other. And then last year, we added a category called resilience, which is tied to smart cities in that it's technologies that are aimed at making our communities more resilient to natural disaster, and all of the external forces, and helping our smart cities actually be a little bit more sustainable for the future. So these are new areas beyond sort of the gadgets that everyone loves to come see, and a lot of these areas are really sparking a lot of conversation about how technology can make our lives better in a really meaningful way.
Well, for instance, I know you've had some leaders from the government here, such as the Department of Energy, talking about cybersecurity. Chairman Pai, the chairman of the FCC, was here earlier in the week to talk about broadband and communications, and Ajit's big thing is rural broadband. How do you address the 18% of U.S. homes, much less globally, that don't have access to broadband? So it's almost becoming the go-to show not just for the innovators, but also the policymakers, because the pace of innovation change it's not slowing down.
And government has to keep up with that and really be part of the conversation. So I believe this year we'll have about 150 government leaders from around the world, really from both sides of the aisle, participating in conversations. And it really is the place for those really high-level conversations around how tech and policy are intersecting.
Yeah, it was funny. I got emailed a picture this morning from somebody I know. I'm based in Colorado now.
Lucky you.
I moved out of Silicon Valley. I've been in Colorado now 7 years, but the Colorado Technology Association hosted and brought a whole bunch of companies with him, not to show, but just to be on the floor. And Mayor Hancock, mayor of Denver, was here. And so they all took this picture. They had a dinner, was it last night or night before last, here at CES, and you had Mayor Hancock. So, like you said, though, it's a whole variety. It's not just the big DC policies, but you also have a lot of foreign, international regulators. I know I've recognized a few from EU, particularly because I come from a telecom broadband background. I know those people pretty well. But it is this intersection of the innovators and the policies, and if we don't get those to synchronize and operate at the same time, then we have other challenges facing us. And I know CTA does a great job with what you do in DC as far as working on the Hill to keep. Does CTA have an international focus on its lobbying work for the industry, or is it purely just U.S.?
So, Consumer Technology Association is a U.S. based association, really, with the mission to help grow the consumer technology industry. So our members are all U.S. based, but of course CES is a global show. I mean, we have, like I said, 160 countries represented. So we really are dedicated to helping to grow the brand outside the U.S. So we do have events, around the world throughout the year. Of course, CES Asia being our largest in June in Shanghai.
Yeah. Well, I've never done that one yet. That's the one.
You've got to get there.
I haven't quite figured out how to get the mobile studio there. That would be a little.
Tricky.
That would be a little tough. I may have to. Oh my gosh, I have to get on an airplane.
A long one too.
Yeah, a long one. Yeah. I mean, in the fact that you've got these shows now, in order to bring together even the regional players becomes critically important. What percentage of the show's vendors today are repeats? I mean, you've got the new ones that are brand new, right? The startups. But you've also, I've counted back. I think this is year 25 for me.
Wow.
At CES. You
have me beat.
Yeah. Well, then I go back to my Comdex days. I can go back to Comdex, right? But do you have a feel for, what that mix is between ones that are kind of the stand, the foundational ones that have been here forever versus the new ones? Because, I can tell you, walking the floor, I'm seeing a lot of companies I've never seen at CES or have never noticed at CES. You got the Samsungs and LGs and those kinds.
Yeah, so of course we have, one of kind of the beauties of CS is we have those very established brands that you'll see year after year. And I think one of the really cool things is every year they kind of try to one-up themselves and each other.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to put, where I'm going to put the Samsung 200-inch TV on my wall in my house yet.
Well, it's a spectacle. And then, of course, one of my favorite areas of the show is Eureka Park, and that's our startup zone. It's in the Sands, 1,200 startups, and really some of these companies are products, and they're trying to actually get the attention of investors or a company like LG or Samsung to purchase them, to partner with them, and it's kind of where a lot of the magic happens from an investment standpoint, and we kind of help make these entrepreneurs' dreams come true. Right.
And we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about people always wondered, how much bigger can CES get, one. And then two, for some of these companies, what's your advice as CTA to how do they get the attention of those key decision makers? Because there's a lot of activity going on. And if you're a startup in Eureka, how do you get someone's attention? So we're going to talk about that when we come back from this quick commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back. As we go into the break, one of the things I wanted to ask around CTA and CES in particular is I mean, everybody always says, well, how much bigger can CES really get? I mean, it's the largest show, one of the largest shows here in Vegas, bar none. And you gotta, do you run out of hotel rooms? Do you run out of show floor space? Do you run, where does the limit and how much bigger can CES really become?
So first I want to say that, if companies and industries want to be represented here at CES and our attendees are interested in seeing what they have to show from a technology perspective, we want them here. I think, it really adds to the full experience of what technology has to offer and how technology can really improve our lives. And what we're seeing is that every company has to become a tech company to really thrive in today's world. And some established companies really outside of who you would think would come to CES, like companies like Procter and Gamble and Unilever, they're here at CES to show how their businesses are shifting using technology. So we are running out of space, of course. Next year, with the expansion of the Las Vegas Convention Center, that will be very helpful. CES 2021 will actually be the very first show that will get to use that space. So that's something we're excited about.
And actually, just for the listeners, we're sitting here in the mobile studio, literally right behind us, 250, 300 yards is this expansion that's on the other side of the road. In fact, I didn't even know it was being expanded until Monday. I came down and did the drive-by, and I'm like, what is that? And it's like this massive expansion. How much more square footage is that going to bring on?
Oh gosh, I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that it is quite significant and will really change our ability to make sure everyone who wants to be here can be here.
Right.
It's hard to believe that it will be ready for next year, but I'm told that it will be. I actually am getting the opportunity to tour it tomorrow, and I can't
we're
wait.
One day too soon.
I know. I could have given you the scoop.
Could have gotten the inside scoop on the new space.
I'll send you an email.
Okay,
but
we'll update the show notes.
I think we'll have to do a little bit of imagining to see, what it could bring in. But you also bring up a good point about hotels. Right now, we have more attendees, 170,000, than we have hotel rooms here in Las Vegas. So that's always something that we're thinking of from an attendee perspective, just to make sure that everyone here can really have a quality experience.
Right, yeah. And I mean, and like I said, I started off in the old Comdex days, and that was before any of the really, in the 80s, the big mega hotels and hotel rooms were really a problem, and people would be scattered out into the rural parts. I mean, I think Las Vegas as a city has done an absolutely phenomenal job at being able to step up and make the investments in order to host it. Because, like for me, when I was CTO at HP coming here, the nice thing about shows like this is you can come one place and you probably save 15 or 20 trips throughout the year because you come to one place to have the meeting.
Well, we actually have a stat on that. Our average per attendee is at least 33 meetings here at CES. So I think people just talk about, how much travel it helps cut down, and not just, travel, but really global travel. They're meeting with companies and attendees, investors from around the world. So we love that one.
Yeah, and it's an important one, right? Because look, the economy is global, your customers are global, multinationals' ability to find interesting technologies to put into their supply chain in order to enhance value, you've got to find them. And finding these little guys on your own is almost impossible. Having a show like this where you can, find, the small innovative startups who are doing things that...
Absolutely.
HP, we had a $4 billion R&D spend, right? And we had, 40,000 engineers in the country. And, but even HP couldn't invent everything. You had to go find those. So I think shows like, CES is the biggest, right? So everybody's pretty much has got to be here for that. So you're saying that the new expansion will be done in time for next year.
We will be the very first show to use the space.
And you're going to fill it?
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Wow. That's impressive.
So one of the cool things about CES is we actually start selling for the next show during this year's show. So as soon as the doors open, we start space selection for the next year. We actually fill probably about 60% of the show before we even leave Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, I remember that in the HP days. The events team would be over there because you get your lottery based on the seniority of years you've been at the show, and you get to pick your spot. That's why a lot of the guys are in the exact same spot every year, type of thing.
People know what they like.
Well, in this show, you can close your eyes. I can tell you exactly where Samsung. I can tell you where Sony's going to be. I can tell you where LG is going to be. Everybody stays pretty much in the exact same spot. Real quick, as we're wrapping up the show, what's one thing that's in the show this year that you saw that's kind of would be something that kind of wows you?
Well, I mean, everybody's talking about it. I think the flying cars are just too cool. I mean, I didn't know how close we were to seeing that be a reality, and might not be tomorrow, of course. But we're already seeing companies like Hyundai partner with Uber and really try to think about how we can bring that to everyone. And gosh, I feel like we're in the Jetsons era.
Well, and when you mentioned Jetsons specifically, right? Because everybody's commenting on the fact that 2020 was supposed to be the year, when the Jetsons first started out. 2020 is what the time frame for for the Jetsons.
I forgot about that.
For the Jetsons cartoon, and it was like, well, we don't have flying cars. Come to CES. You can see flying cars. So if people want to keep track of CTA and what's coming up in the show, what's the best location for them to keep up with what's going on?
So first of all, if you're here, download the app, follow along on ces.tech, and you can definitely follow the conversation on social media at #CES2020.
Great. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us at today's show. As we wrap up this week's show, we've got a lot more shows coming down the line from our time here at the Consumer Electronics Show, so you're not going to want to miss it. If you've missed any of the previous shows, you can hop on over to the show notes over at killerinnovations.com. We're also on iTunes, Google, Spotify, iHeart, anywhere where you can get your podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. And the one thing that I would ask is if you enjoy the show, tell other people about the show. We're always, while we've been around for 15 years, always looking to find those new listeners who can enjoy our benefit. With that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.